Hi, I'm Miranda, and I'm going to just kind of tell my miscarriage stories. And if you know me in real life, then some of this might be a surprise. Um, but otherwise, here we go. So, the first time I got pregnant, I was actually 17, and I suspected I was pregnant after I missed my period and I was really nauseous and I was so exhausted, so tired. And I didn't have a car at the time, and so I was waiting to be able to take my mom's car to school one day so that I could stop at the store and buy a test. And so when that time finally came, it was November 6th of 2013. I was a senior in high school, and my husband now was actually my boyfriend at the time, Joe. So I bought a pregnancy test on the way to school, and my school had this policy where if you're late to class or anything like that, after a certain number of times, then you could get a detention or something. And of course, I'm more worried about detention than I am about, being possibly pregnant at 17. Go figure. And so I took the test between classes during like the 5-minute class change. And so I was trying to be really fast because I needed to be on the other side of the school. I know, great timing on my part. So I took the test, and the box said to like wait 5 minutes or so, and I didn't have 5 minutes to wait. So I just kind of peed on it, pulled my pants up real quick, looked at it, did not see 2 lines, and was like, cool, it's negative, and just went with that. So I threw it in my purse, ran to class, was not late. I just assumed, okay, well, your period will start eventually then. Maybe you're just stressed out or something like that, right? So later that night, in the middle of the night, I wake up and I'm having really bad cramps. And I don't really get cramps with my periods, not very often. And if I do, it's hardly anything. But these were painful and enough to wake me up. And I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. So when I got up in the morning to get ready for school, I had started bleeding, and I just assumed it was my period and that it had finally started. That was November 7th. And so immediately I knew it just didn't look right. The blood didn't look like a normal period. If you hear that noise in the back, that's my cat, Freya. So I go to school, and I go to the bathroom during my art class, and I noticed that still my period doesn't look right. The color's not right. The texture's not right. There's really big clots and stuff, and it's not right, okay? And I'm still cramping really bad. That hasn't stopped. It's still going on. It's like something's not right. And so we're allowed to have our phones in the art class to listen to music and stuff, and I start Googling what could be going on with my period. And I'm getting results for miscarriage, and I'm like, no, the test was negative, right? So I also read that you should deliver a sac, and I hadn't. And so I'm like, nope, it's not gonna happen to me. It's just a weird period. That's it. So I ignore it. And the cramping keeps going. The bleeding's getting a lot worse. And I'm just thinking that Mother Nature really hates me. Later that night, I'm home alone, and I go to use the bathroom, and it feels like something is blocking the way down there, is the best way to describe it. And so I pushed just a little bit, and I delivered the sac. And I knew what it was when I did, because I'd seen the pictures when I Googled it. And it kind of it all hit me at once, oh my God, you were pregnant. And that, the whole thing, the there was a lot of blood, and it was just really traumatizing. And I had a lot of guilt about it. And I think there's a lot of shame already around, you know, if you get pregnant as a teenager. And then to add in the shame and guilt that people who miscarry feel a lot of the time, it was all just a lot. And the only people that knew was Joe and my best friend Jordan. And I mean, even my family, that was in November, and I didn't even tell my mom until I turned 18 in March. And it was just hard to talk about. It still is sometimes. And those who did found out, it wasn't like I just went around and was like, hey, guess what happened? But I didn't know I miscarried until, I didn't know I was pregnant until I miscarried. And that was really difficult. So fast forward to, I'm 24 years old. It was just this past August. It's December now. And we got pregnant again. And it was not planned. It was an oops, as we called it. I was really excited. I was really scared, but I was really excited. I didn't tell Joe that I thought I was pregnant because I didn't want to worry him if I didn't have to. And so my period was late, and I was getting really bad heartburn, and I hadn't craved or wanted chocolate in like 4 days, which is so unusual to me. And so I was like, all right, let me just take a test. It'll probably be negative. I didn't really think it was going to be positive, but I was like, all right, whatever. And so I actually took my pregnancy test for my second pregnancy in a Food Lion bathroom. Because I was like, I don't want to bring this home. Like, why worry him? But then it came up positive immediately. And so the first phone call I made was to my best friend. I bought Joe beer, his favorite beer, and cookies and a card, just to try to soften him up. You know what I mean? I'm excited because I didn't know if he was going to be excited or if he was going to, you know, how his reaction was going to be, because we weren't trying. And I was 4 weeks and 4 days. And so was like, when I told him, I started crying. I mean, I was terrified that I was going to miscarry again, just like I did before. And I mean, it was so traumatic the first time when it was actually happening. And I was just so scared that's what was going to happen again. He was in shock, but he wasn't like mad or anything. Like, he was excited. And I became excited too. And I decided right then and there that I didn't want to be fearful during that pregnancy, and that I wanted to enjoy it and be as happy as I could for however long I could. We told my parents, we told his parents, we told our grandparents, and they were all so excited. I just tried my best not to live in fear. And I mean, I journaled every day, I went shopping, and I was told by a lot of people in my life that, you know, you already had one miscarriage, so you were 17, you were young, it won't happen again, you're older now. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. And so on September 20th was, it was a Sunday, and I started to spot a little bit, but it wasn't anything crazy, and I wasn't really in pain or anything. And I called my doctor, and I hadn't had my first ultrasound yet. I had everything confirmed, but I hadn't had an ultrasound yet. And I had an ultrasound actually planned for the next day on the 21st, my first ultrasound. And they were like, well, just rest, and you know, you're gonna come in tomorrow, so just come to your appointment and just relax. So I was like, okay. And as closer as the ultrasound got, the more nervous I was. So on Monday when I woke up, I wasn't bleeding anymore, I wasn't spotting, and I went to the ultrasound. And because of COVID, my husband he was on Skype with me on my phone, and when they did the ultrasound, they did not see a baby in the sac. And at first they were thinking it was a blighted ovum, pregnancy where the sac develops but the baby never does inside. I was supposed to be, at that point, I was supposed to be 8 weeks and 2 days. And so, but there was nothing there. It was just a sac. And so it was kind of quiet, and lady's like, well, when was your last period? How far along do you think you are? Are you sure? And I was like, no, I'm sure. And I mean, I took like 10 pregnancy tests. Like, I was sure. And she was like, okay, well, we're just gonna send you to get some blood, and you'll come back in a week for another ultrasound. And I mean, I ran out of there. Like, I asked for if I could have a picture, so I do have one. And even though there wasn't anything there, I wanted it. Went and got the blood, and then I ran out of there as fast as I could. And I was crying, and I got in the car, and I called Joe back, and I was crying again. And then I called my mom, and she was all excited when she first answered, and then I started crying, and it was just not good. And so I went home, and I was bleeding, but they said that was normal from the ultrasound. And then it kept up. And so that was, like I said, the 21st. So the 22nd, I went to work, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. I started missing a lot of work that week. My boss's husband had also passed, and he was a really great man, and so there was like a memorial they were going to have on for him, and I think that's what that was happening that day on the 22nd. Yeah, so I went to work, and then I left from work to go to our school farm to do this memorial for him. And I ended up leaving from the memorial to go home and just try to take it easy because I was still bleeding, and they hadn't said I was officially having a miscarriage or anything yet. They wanted to try and wait until the following week to see if there was any kind of growth, or if I had been wrong about how far along it was, even though I told them there was no way I was wrong. And so that night, the bleeding had picked up, and I was kind of cramping, and then I was actually walking around my house when I felt it come out of me, and I went in the bathroom, and I had passed what I thought was the sac, but I wasn't entirely sure because it didn't look exactly the same as it had with my first loss. This part might be a little graphic, like if you want to skip ahead a little bit, but with my first loss, the sac was a perfect oval, where this one was not at all. And so I took a picture of it, and I have some friends who had been through miscarriage, and they were okay with me sending them the photo, so I did. And they thought so, but they weren't quite sure. So the next day I called my doctor to go back, and I went in and I showed it to her, and she confirmed that it was the sac. Pretty much the way she described everything was, and she did some more stuff, but it was not a blighted ovum pregnancy. Baby was just too small to be seen and was already on the way out. And in the process of miscarrying, the sac for my second loss shrink wrapped itself pretty much, and that's why it looked the way that it did. But that was my second loss. And yeah, if you're wondering if I'm terrified about getting pregnant again, the answer is absolutely. I don't even know if I can say that. Yes, I'm scared. That's my story. And I just wanted to come on here and tell that. And so that's that. If I actually get views on this, then maybe I'll make another video and kind of talk about the ways that I've coped and some other things. Let me get Joe on here to talk a little bit too. But thank you for watching. Bye.